You are 31 years old and you are standing behind 80 men. Not in front. Behind. That's the job. Ahead of you the line is holding. Behind you there's nothing but the ditch you helped dig at sunset. And the thing you actually notice isn't the shouting. It isn't the iron. It's the picks. Hundreds of them. Still going. Level 1. The recruit. You are 18 years old. You walk to the recruiting officer yourself. Nobody drags you. The alternative is your father's 4 acres split 3 ways between you and your brothers, and 4 acres won't feed one family, let alone 3. They measure you. They ask if you're a Roman citizen, and if you're not, that can be arranged. The army has been turning useful men into citizens for a long time. They check your teeth. Then they check your feet. The feet matter more. Nobody explains why for about a year. Then you swear the oath. You say it out loud, in a yard, with other men saying it next to you. You swear to the emperor. Not to Rome. Not to a general. To one man, by name. The second those words leave your mouth, 3 things are true that weren't true this morning. 1. You've signed up for 25 years. 2. You can't leave. Walking away isn't quitting, it's a crime you can be executed for, and the army has a procedure for it. 3. You can't get married. Not to a woman you already love. Not to one you meet next year. Not to anybody. For 25 years. It isn't discouraged. It's void. Any marriage you make doesn't legally exist. You're 18. You don't really hear that part. At 18, 25 years isn't a length of time. It's just a number somebody said. The barracks smell like wet wool and lamp oil and 40 men in one room. That never changes. Not once, for a quarter of a century. They give you a sword. They give you a shield. And they give you a pick. Iron, with an axe blade on the other side. For digging. An older man watches you weigh it in your hand. Then he tells you the thing you'll repeat to recruits 20 years from now. That one matters more than the sword. You think he's joking. Level 2. The soldier. You are 19 years old. Here's what the Roman army actually is. It's walking. A Roman military writer put the standard day's march at about 20 Roman miles, done in roughly 5 hours. There's a faster pace above that, for when it's needed. You do it carrying everything. Armor. Weapons. Cloak. Food. Cooking pot. Stakes. Tools. Estimates put the load somewhere around 20 to 30 kilos. Every one of those kilos lands on your feet. That's why they checked your feet. Then, at the end of 20 miles, when the column stops, you don't eat and you don't sleep. You dig. The Roman army builds a fort every single night on campaign. A ditch. A wall made from the dirt out of the ditch. Stakes along the top. Gates. Streets laid out in exactly the same pattern every time, so a man can find the latrine in the dark in a camp he's never seen before. A Greek writer named Josephus watched them do this and couldn't get over it. An army that builds a fort at the end of every day's march. Whether or not anyone's coming. Then the sun comes up and you fill the ditch back in and you march. Nobody warns you about the sound. Not the marching. The digging. Thousands of picks going into wet ground at once, at dusk, after 20 miles. It doesn't stop until the wall is up. You don't hear it. You feel it, in your own arms. Your pay comes 3 times a year and most of it's gone before it reaches you. They take out food. Boots. Equipment. The burial club, the fund that means you won't go in a pit. What's left gets held for you at the standards. You won't touch it until you leave. You're 19. You own a pick, a debt, and a place in a line. Level 3. The first campaign. You are 22 years old, and you're on the Danube. The frontier here isn't a wall. It's a river, with forts strung along it, and on the other side there are people who don't agree that a river is an edge. And you finally find out what the digging was for. It was for this. When it goes wrong at dusk, there's already a ditch. And a wall. And stakes. And a gate. The difference between a bad night and the end of your legion is about a meter of earth that 80 tired men moved before dinner. That's the whole Roman military system in one sentence. It takes you until 22 to understand it. But the story you carry out of this year isn't one you lived. There's an old man in your unit, close to his discharge, and he tells it the way old soldiers tell the thing that scares them. The year 9. Germany. 3 legions, the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, marching through forest, in bad weather, on bad information, strung out over miles. Their commander was a man named Varus who trusted the wrong local. They were destroyed. All 3. Not beaten. Destroyed, over several days, in ground where they couldn't form up. And Rome never used those numbers again. There's no 18th legion after that. Rome kept the numbers of legions that died well and quietly retired the ones that died like that. There's a stone at a place called Xanton for a centurion of the 18th named Marcus Caelius. It shows him in all his medals and it says he fell in the Varian War. It's an empty monument. There's nobody under it. They never found him. The old man finishes and doesn't say anything after it. And you understand that he's been carrying that for 30 years, the way you'll carry something for 30 years. The forest here smells like wet leaves. Rain gets into the joints of your armor and the iron goes cold on your ribs and stays cold. You live. Men who live get useful. Level 4. The Exempt. You are 25 years old. You can read, write, and count. That's rarer than you think. One afternoon a clerk asks whether you'd rather do that than dig. You become what they call immunes. Exempt. Not from marching. From the work details, the ditch, the latrines, grinding grain, hauling everything. The legion runs on skilled men and it protects them. Surveyors. Medics. Blacksmiths. Clerks. Stonemasons. If you've got a skill, the army would rather use it than break your back. Your hands stop smelling like dirt. Now they smell like ink, and once a month like hot metal from the workshop next door. And here's the strange part, which you'd never admit to anyone. You miss the pick. Not the work. Nobody misses the work. You miss knowing exactly what you were for, at sunset, with 80 men doing the same thing beside you and no thinking required. This is also the level where the other thing arrives. There's a woman in the settlement outside the fort. There always is. Forts grow villages the way a ship grows barnacles, and those villages run entirely on soldiers. She has a name. You have 2 children with her. And none of it exists. You can't marry while you serve. So she isn't your wife. Not legally. Your sons aren't your sons. Not legally. If you die tomorrow, she gets nothing, not because anyone's cruel, but because there's no legal relationship for anything to pass through. Everyone knows about her. Your centurion knows. The army knows. The law just doesn't have a word for what she is to you. Nobody tells you at 18 that this is what 25 years actually costs. They tell you about the marching. The marching is easy. The marching is just walking. You're 25. You have a family. And the Empire has never heard of them. Level 5. The Watchword Officer. You are 28 years old, and you're in Britain now. The transfer comes the way they always do. A detachment gets ordered north and your name's on the list because you can write. Your new job has a title that means tablet carrier. Every night has a password. It gets written on a small wooden tablet. You carry it around the guard posts after dark and make sure every sentry has it and every sentry is awake. This is your first real authority and it's a small, exact, unforgiving one. Because if a post is asleep and the camp gets hit, the blame runs upward. Through the sentry. Then through the man who checked the sentry. Roman military discipline has answers for that. You've heard them described. You'd rather not describe them. What you remember from these years is the camp at night. 40 cooking fires banked down to red. Horses shifting. Somebody snoring in the same tent you pass every night on the same circuit. The latrine trench downwind, always downwind. Men talking low in 3 languages. Because a legion isn't Romans. It's Gauls and Spaniards and Thracians and Pannonians who got turned into Romans by the same oath you swore in a yard at 18. You walk that circuit for 3 years. 28 years old, and you've become a man other men wait to hear from. Level 6. The second in command. You are 31 years old, at a fort on the northern edge of Britain. Second in command of the century. And in battle, your position is the back. The Centurion stands at the front, in the crest, where everyone can see him. You stand behind the last rank with a staff. Your job, and the Romans write it down plainly, is that the line does not break. Men who turn around find you there. Now, here's what the Roman Empire actually looks like from the inside at 31. It isn't this. It isn't the shield wall. At a fort called Vindolanda, right around these years, soldiers and their families write letters on thin slices of wood. In ink. Then they throw them away. And the ground there is wet enough that hundreds of them survived. For 2,000 years. They're not epic. They're strength reports. How many men fit for duty? How many sick? How many out at the quarry? They're requests. Somebody writes home about socks and underwear being sent up. Somebody complains the roads are bad. An officer writes a note calling the local Britons Britunculi, the wretched little Britons. You can hear the tone across 19 centuries. And one of them is a birthday invitation. A woman named Claudia Severa writes to Sulpicia Lepidina, the commander's wife, inviting her to a birthday party. Most of it was written by a scribe. But the last few lines are in Severa's own handwriting, different, less practiced. Which makes it one of the earliest surviving pieces of Latin written by a woman anywhere in the Roman world. A birthday invitation. On the frontier. In winter. In the coldest, wettest, furthest corner of the empire. That's what you're standing behind 80 men to protect. Not glory. Paperwork. A woman inviting another woman to a party, and somebody, somewhere, asking for more socks. The fort smells like peat smoke and permanent damp. Nothing ever dries. Not your boots. Not your cloak. Not the letters. You get recommended for a centurion's post. Level 7. The standard bearer. You are 33 years old, and they've sent you back to the Danube. The emperor is at war with Dacia and every experienced man in the empire is moving east. You carry the standard now. It isn't decoration. In dust and noise, men navigate by it. A unit that can't see its standard isn't a unit, it's a crowd. It's also, and this surprises you, a bank. The men's forced savings are kept at the standards. The standards live in a shrine inside the fort and are treated as sacred objects. The practical result is that the safest place to keep money in the Roman world is under something men will die to get back. So you're carrying the century's flag and the century's savings. Both get called sacred. Only one of them actually is. Nobody tells you what it does to your body. A standard is carried one-handed. High. All day. On the march and in the line. 12 years from now you'll still stand with one shoulder slightly forward and you won't be able to stop. And you learn what losing one means. Not tactically. Culturally. A lost standard is a wound a unit carries for generations. Rome spent decades in serious diplomacy getting back standards lost in the East. It mattered that much. There's a cavalryman in these campaigns named Tiberius Claudius Maximus. He has a tombstone at Philippi with his whole career on it, including his part in hunting down the Dacian king at the end of the war. Ordinary men. Documented. A whole life cut into stone in 11 lines. Level 8. The Centurion. You are 37 years old. 80 men are yours. You get the crest, mounted sideways across the helmet instead of front to back, so your own men can find you in dust and noise. Which means everyone else can find you too. That's not an oversight. That's the design. And you get the vine stick? About the length of your forearm. It's the badge of the rank. It's also the tool. A centurion can beat his own soldiers with it, and does, and the men expect it. A centurion who won't use it is one the century stops respecting. You've carried a pick. Then a tablet. Then a standard. Now you carry a stick whose entire purpose is hitting the men you eat with. Julius Caesar wrote about 2 centurions of the 11th Legion, Varenus and Pullo, who hated each other so much they kept charging into danger to outdo each other, and ended up saving each other's lives. That story's been told to recruits for 150 years. Here's the part nobody tells them. Centurions died at a higher rate than the men they commanded. You stand at the front. In a crest. Visible. In the place where the line is thinnest. And you do it in every single engagement of your career. At sunset you give the order and 80 men take out their picks and start digging. And for the first time in your life you hear that sound from the outside. You stand there listening to it. You're 37. And you can't remember the last time your hands were dirty. Level 9. The first spear. You are 45 years old. First spear. The senior centurion of the entire legion. Command of the first cohort. A seat on the legate's council. Pay that's many times what you got at 19. There are around 5,000 men in this legion and you are the most senior soldier in it who came up from the ranks. You've been in the army 27 years. The post lasts 1 year. That's not a punishment and it's not a failure. That's just how it works. You hold first spear for 12 months. Then you're moved up into administration, or out. 27 years of marching and digging and standing at the back and then standing at the front. And the thing at the top of the ladder is a 1-year appointment. The command tent smells like lamp oil and wax and wine that's better than anything you drank for 2 decades. Men wait for you to speak. Young officers from senatorial families listen to you carefully, men who'll command legions before they're 30 because of who their fathers are. They listen because you've been on this frontier since before they were weaned. Your sons are grown men now. Your sons are still, legally, nobody's sons. You do the arithmetic every man in this seat does. 3 more years. Level 10. The Discharged. You are 48 years old. And you're done. Honorable discharge. The Romans have a phrase for it, honesta missio. You get paid off. Land, usually, a plot in a colony, often in a province your legion helped take, and almost always a very long way from 4 acres your father couldn't split 3 ways. And you get one more thing. The day your service ends, the woman you have lived with for 23 years becomes your wife. Not because anything changed between you. Because the law stopped saying no. And your sons, grown men, one of them with children of his own, become, legally, your sons. That afternoon. Retroactively. As a reward for finishing. We know this happened because the paperwork survives. Bronze certificates issued to discharged soldiers, dug out of fields all over Europe, spelling out the rights a veteran received, including the right to a legal marriage and recognition of the children already born. The empire wrote it down. On metal. Because it needed to be permanent. So here's what the ladder actually was. You didn't climb it to become a centurion. You didn't climb it for the vine stick, or the crest, or the seat on the council, or the 1 year at the top holding first spear. You climbed it to reach the day the empire would finally admit that the woman you'd lived with for 23 years was your wife. Everything else, every mile, every ditch, every night walking the posts with a wooden tablet, every man you hit with a stick because the rank required it. That was just what you did while you waited. Somewhere on a road in a province you'll never see, there's a boy of 18 standing in a yard with other men, saying words out loud in Latin about an emperor he will never meet. Afterwards they'll hand him a sword. And a shield. And a pick, with an axe blade on the other side. He'll weigh it in his hand and look confused. And an older man will tell him that one matters more than the sword. He won't believe it. Nobody does at 18. He'll drop it, because it's badly balanced and nobody's shown him where to hold it yet. He'll find out. They always do. 10 ranks. 25 years. And a piece of paperwork at the end of it, to say his children were his. The dread begins again.